There are 4 essential parenting tools that every caregiver should have access to, and it just makes for more effective parenting. Today, I want to discuss with you those tools that might make your morning routine a little bit easier. How to manage those attention-seeking behaviors, how to transition from preferred and non-preferred activities, what logical consequences are, and how to impose logical consequences on our children. My goal by the end of today's video is that you are going to leave with scripts and examples that are going to make you feel confident in how to generalize these tools on a day-to-day basis. Welcome back. If this is our first time meeting, my name is Alicia, and I am a board certified behavior analyst, and I have been a parent consultant for a very long time. And I have come to realize that parents and caregivers, they are looking and want resources. You are looking for information that you can just reference on a regular basis. So I wanted to create that platform for you. Here on my YouTube account, I try to create either weekly or bi-weekly videos where I'm able to dive into a little bit more of like the nitty-gritty behind some of the tools that have an applied behavior analysis foundation. I also have an account over at Instagram. There I provide daily content on just a plethora of different tools. And again, here I try to give you a little bit more information. Again, knowing you're a caregiver, I know you have a limited amount of time. So let's just dive into the 4 essential tools that I think is going to make things a little bit easier for you. Let's talk about that morning routine. It is stressful, it is difficult, and more often than not, it is rushed. So how do we mitigate that? Let's begin prepping the night before. And by that, I mean, let's start with something as simple as setting our clothes for the next day. Now, what's really important here is that your child has the choices. You provide choices for your child in terms that, okay, do you want the red shirt or the blue shirt? Do you want a skirt? Do you want to wear a dress? You want to make sure that the choices are limited, okay? We don't want to create overwhelming choices. You want to create limited choices for our kiddo. Next, we want to set those expectations. Is your child old enough to where they should be able to get dressed before they come downstairs? Or do they need assistance getting dressed? Once you've established those expectations, now let's talk about what we're going to do in the morning. You want to pre-wake up your children, okay? And by that I mean, we want to turn the hallway light on. We want to go in, we want to draw the shades, okay? You want to start getting their body aware that it's time to wake up. We don't want to bust through the door and say, it's time to wake up. No, that's very alarming. We want to start pre-waking up our kiddo in order to make it a little bit more of like a successful morning. As your morning progresses, it's really important that you're able to provide your child with praise for complying with those requests or the expectations that you set up the night before. And at first, it's going to be pretty continuous. And by that, I mean for every step that they comply with, we're providing some sort of praise-specific reinforcement. Now, that's key. And by that, I mean we want to make sure that first and foremost, we have eye contact, okay? Next, we're going to provide that verbal praise of great job, you did great, thank you so much, something along those lines, okay? Identifying that I appreciate what you're doing. You then want to identify what you're praising them for. And by that, I mean, you want to say, you know what? I really appreciate how you got dressed and you came down this morning and I didn't have to go up there. Okay. I'm being specific as to what I'm praising you for, not great job, Johnny, or you're doing great. You want them to know what they're being successful with. Let's move along to how to transition our child away from a highly preferred activity to a not so preferred activity, okay? So let's start off with our older children that maybe you got to pull them away from a video game or screen time. Now, this one's going to kind of be twofold, so kind of stay with me. First, what you want to do is you want to offer them that time limit warning. Okay, you have 5 more minutes and then it's going to be time to get off the video game. But keep in mind that they're going to be so engrossed in that video game that 5 minutes, they're not really going to have too much of a concept of. So you're going to have to let them know, all right, hey, you've got 2 more minutes, wrap it up. Now, this is where This is where I say you kind of have like a twofold, and it might get a little bit sticky, because when you have a child who's engrossed in screen time, you don't necessarily want to abruptly end it in the middle of a stage or level. That's probably better. In the middle of a level. You also don't want to abruptly end a TV show right in the middle of the scene. So it's going to have to be, all right, you have 5 more minutes. And then when you walk in, and let's say it's a video game, all right, when you walk in, it's 5 more minutes, 5 minutes is up. It's okay. You know what? You're going to finish this level. You're going to get to the door and now it's done. Those are your 5 minutes and we're over with, okay? And then when you have a child who's maybe engaging in some sort of other screen time in terms of watching a TV show, if you have the 5 minutes, then you identify the scene, okay, once this song is over, TV time is up, your screen time is over. Again, the concept here is it's not so much of an abrupt rip away from your child, okay? Now let's move on to our younger children, all right? The child that is not going to be able to tell time, no concept of it, okay? For that kiddo, let's use the example of going to the playground. It's really hard to leave the playground, okay? What you want to do is you want to identify activities that come to a discrete end, okay? So it's going to be, all right, you have 2 more choices, 2 more things that you're going to want to do, and then it's going to be time to go. In this case, you want to make sure that you have your child's attention. All right, we're bending down. I have your eye contact. It's not you're on the swing and I'm telling you got 2 more things to do. It's we're one-on-one. You have 2 more activities to choose. What is it that you want to do? Again, you're also going to be that human countdown, just like you were with the older children. You're still that countdown clock. It's okay, you chose the slide, that was your first choice, great job. What's going to be your next choice? Oh, it's going to be the monkey bars. Okay, monkey bars, and then we're all done. It's time to go home. Again, the concept here is that we want to gradually get our child to pull away from a preferred activity into a not so preferred activity. Your next essential tool is going to be, how do you get rid of those attention-seeking behaviors? And those behaviors can vary anywhere from the whining, the crying, to the screaming, the stomping, the eye rolling, the door slamming. How do we get rid of those attention-seeking behaviors? How do I identify that that is the function of my child's behavior, and how do I mitigate that? Identifying that attention-seeking behavior, quite honestly, it's not as difficult as it sounds. I mean, really, it's when your attention is divided, or when you're not giving your child that attention, more often as not, is when they engage in those negative behaviors to get your attention. So, how do I proactively avoid those attention-seeking behaviors? Then, once I have them, how do I get rid of them? Okay, so let's first discuss the proactive approach on how to mitigate those attention-seeking behaviors. What you want to do, and it becomes more of something that is more cognizant on your end, in that you're going to have to set aside 10 minutes a day, one-on-one with your child, to provide that attention, non-contingent attention. And by non-contingent, I mean they don't have to work for it. You just provide your child with the attention they would otherwise be seeking from you. And that leads me into the point of, when do you provide this 10 minutes a day that my child doesn't have to work for attention from me? Now, you can provide it at any point during the day that you want, or you can be real stealth-like and figure out your child's pattern of behavior. When do they typically start melting down and need your attention? Is it around dinner time? Is it around bath time? When your attention is so divided and they're not getting that attention, do you need to pick out those pockets? Right before dinner, you give your kiddo attention. Right after dinner, you pocket those 10 minutes of attention there, to where you are avoiding that attention-seeking behavior when it actually happens. How do we react to that attention-seeking behavior? Now, unless it is behaviors such as hitting, kicking, biting, throwing, those types of behaviors, which are going to require a little bit more of a consequence. And I'm going to link a couple of cards above, and you can go check out some other videos on how to address a little bit more of those aggressive behaviors. If that's not what you're looking at, and you're looking at behaviors of your child just kind of like throwing themselves, that tantrum, that typical tantrum of your child throwing themselves on the ground, screaming, kind of just rolling around, or you have that teenager who is stomping up the stairs, slamming the door, saying, fine, whatever, rolling their eyes. Those types of behaviors, we're going to take an ignoring approach. Now, I know that sounds super simple, but it is really hard, okay? Because in ignoring, what you're doing is you're removing all of that attention that your child is seeking. So I am talking about body posture. You're not facing your child. You're not giving your child eye contact. You're not lecturing. All of those types of behaviors from you are attention, and we want to remove that from our child. Now, what's important to keep in mind here is with planned ignoring, the behaviors are going to get worse. And I mean like far worse. Like your child is going to up the anting. That screaming is going to turn into like shrinking, shrilling. That teenager to where they're rolling their eyes, they're going to like make it apparent. They're going to come right back in that room and grab something and then roll their eyes or do the scoffing just so they get your attention. You want to avoid engagement at that point, okay? And the moment, and I am talking the moment that your child is no longer engaging in those negative behaviors, and it can be like a 2.5 second window, all right? That 2.5 second window, you are going to jump in there, okay? And at that point, you are going to redirect, not distract. You are going to redirect. And by that, I mean, your child is trying to get your attention, okay? The function of their behavior is to get your attention. We are now going to say, hey, you know what, Johnny? I really understand that it's really hard that I'm cooking dinner right now and I can't give you attention, but hey, you wanna know what you can do? You can come over and you can kind of tug my leg, or why don't you ask to come cook with me? Redirecting is you are taking the intention of your child's behavior and you're redirecting it to a more appropriate way to get what it is they want. It serves the same function. Distraction is diverting their attention. We don't want to do that. There's no lesson learned there, okay? So the 2.5 seconds that your child takes a breath or stops engaging in a negative behavior, you want to jump in, redirect, and provide that appropriate replacement behavior in order to get that attention from you. This final essential tool I saved for last for a good reason. It is the best one, okay? I want to talk about consequences. And I know that like makes people cringe. Parents specifically, every time you talk about consequence, you cringe and you go to a place of like this corporal punishment, but it's not that at all. What we want to do is we want to impose logical consequences on our children for inappropriate behaviors. Logical consequences are directly related to the negative behavior. They're respectful, they're immediate, they're reasonable, and they're helpful. Now, let me give you a couple of examples, okay? If your child were to throw a toy or throw a book across the room, sending your child to timeout doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's no correlation between the negative behavior and the consequence that your child is being provided. If your child throws a book across the room, now I'm going to say, that's not acceptable behavior. You need to go pick up that book and maybe 5 other books that are laying on the ground, or maybe 5 other toys that are in that room. Okay? Again, you have to think logical consequences are directly related to that negative behavior, and they're delivered immediately, okay? We can't have the logical, I shouldn't say we can, I should say you ideally don't want the logical consequence to be delivered at a delayed rate. At that point, it's going to be a lot harder for your child to be able to draw a parallel between the negative behavior that occurred and the consequence of when they get it. Additionally, logical consequences are reasonable. So if you have a teenager that comes home late after curfew, it's not going to be, I can't believe you did this. Now you are grounded for 5 days. That's a lot. That's a lot of time for the crime that she just committed. So you want to be reasonable about the consequence that you deliver. So just keep in mind that logical consequences, when imposed by a caregiver, are directly correlated to that negative behavior. They're delivered immediately. They're reasonable, respectful, and helpful. And that's going to wrap up the 4 essential tools that I wanted to provide you guys with today. Now, if during this video you found that there were maybe some more tools that you wanted me to dive into even more, a little bit more of detail about, please comment below and I will maybe look into doing that for our next video. In the meantime, don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell icon that lets you know when I do future videos and trainings, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.